We've been enjoying all the fall things here on the homestead, making lots of goodies with sourdough and pumpkin, a few of which I'm going to show you today. And we've also taken a little extra time to spruce things up around here, make them look a little more festive for the fall season. So come along with me as we cook, clean, and decorate and enjoy a cozy fall day on the homestead. The first thing I'm going to do is make some pumpkin cinnamon rolls. Of all the cinnamon rolls that I make year-round, all the different flavors, these are by far my favorite, and I think it's because the pumpkin makes the rolls so soft and fluffy. And so to make your own pumpkin puree, it's very simple. All you need to do is put a couple sugar pie pumpkins on a baking sheet in the oven at 400 degrees until they are soft. It usually takes about 40 minutes to an hour, depending on the size of the pumpkin. And then I let them cool, and I am just separating the meat of the pumpkin from the seeds. And you could also wash these seeds out and toast them in the oven with a little tallow or butter or olive oil and some seasonings like garlic salt, and they are delicious as well. But once you get the pumpkin meat separated from the peeling and the seeds, then you can just blend this with an immersion blender and you have pumpkin puree. So it's very simple and easy to do. If you want more instructions on how to do that, you can visit the blog wagonwheelhomestead.com, where all of these recipes from today's video will be posted. And once you have that pumpkin puree, you can leave it in the refrigerator and use it to make all kinds of pumpkin goodies, which is what we have been doing here. So for the pumpkin cinnamon roll dough, to the bowl of my Bosch mixer, which, by the way, I'll put a link for this in the description box below. I use this mixer almost every single day. I am going to add a half a cup of sugar, a half a cup of beef tallow, a half a cup of pumpkin puree, a half a cup of sourdough starter, half a teaspoon of salt, 2 eggs, and 4 to 5 cups of flour, just depending on how much flour it takes for the dough to pull away from the edge of the bowl. If you don't have a mixer, you can also mix this up by hand in just a bowl, and then you can do stretch and folds on the dough, similar to what you would do with an artisan loaf, and that will also develop the gluten. So that is another way that you can mix these up, but I much prefer to use my mixer. I usually mix these up while I'm cleaning up the kitchen or doing dishes or something else. And then you can either let them rise overnight after putting them in the pan, or you have the option of baking them right away if you add additional leaveners, which is in the recipe, and that is baking soda and baking powder. So it just depends on how you want to do it. Of course, letting these rise overnight is preferred because then you get all the long fermented health benefits from the sourdough portion of this recipe. And so I prefer to use active sourdough starter and let these rolls rise overnight. But you can also use discard and then add the additional leaveners and bake them right away if discard is all you have, or if you're wanting to make these for a quick treat. So then we're going to mix up a really delicious pumpkin filling. So I'm using again some of that pumpkin puree that we made, some fresh homemade butter, some seasonings like cinnamon and ginger, and some brown sugar. And we're going to mix this together. And what's different about this recipe is we're actually going to spread some of the filling on the bottom of our pan. You can use a 9x13 baking pan if that's all you have. I prefer to use a 12-inch cast iron skillet. Sourdough loves the even, warm baking of a cast iron skillet. So anytime you can use sourdough and cast iron at the same time, I suggest that you do so. So that's what I'm going to do today, and we're just going to spread some on the bottom of the pan, and it's going to add some extra gooiness to these cinnamon rolls. Then we're going to roll out the dough and spread the rest of the filling on the large rectangle of dough, just like you would do for regular cinnamon rolls. And you can choose to roll these up all together, but what I prefer to do is to use a pizza cutter and cut them into 12 equal strips and then roll each strip individually. It makes the rolls a little bit more uniform, and I find that it's easier to make them look really beautiful in the end. So again, you can do it however you'd like, but that's my preferred way of making these. And then we're either going to let them set, like we talked about, and rise overnight, or we're going to pop them in the oven and get them baking. And I bake these at 350 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes. You want to make sure they're done in the middle. And whenever you make really gooey cinnamon rolls, sometimes the extra filling and the moisture in it makes it so they don't bake all the way through. So make sure these are baked in the middle. Just touch the tops of the dough. Make sure that it's nice and firm. And then we're going to mix up the frosting. We're going to make an absolutely delicious pumpkin cream cheese frosting. So we're adding butter, cream cheese, some pumpkin puree, once again, vanilla, a little bit of cinnamon, and some ginger to a bowl. And we are just going to mix that all up with some powdered sugar, and then we will spread it on top of these freshly baked rolls. And these are just absolutely wonderful and delicious, and something that we make many times during the fall season. Every once in a while, things around the homestead start to look kind of shaggy, you might say. And with 5, almost 6 kids running around and lots of different projects going on, there's always lots of picking up and cleaning up that needs done. So I thought I would just take you along and show you how I'm sprucing things up for fall. I'm going to do a little bit of decorating, but first, of course, we have to do some cleaning. So this is my front porch, and I haven't ever done a lot with it because we need to finish putting in the sidewalk here. There's just a few things that still need to be done, and it just seems like it catches so many shoes and so much dirt, and we get quite a bit of south wind here, and that seems to, affect how clean everything stays as well. But I decided that even though everything isn't completely finished and isn't perfect, that I can still do some straightening up and some cleaning up, and then I'm going to do a little decorating as well, just because it brings me joy, and it's something that will make me smile when I come in at night from doing chores, and I will enjoy seeing the lights and the beauty. And so I hope that if you happen to be living somewhere that maybe isn't permanent, or things aren't completely finished, right? Because there's always different projects that need to be done, that this will inspire you to go ahead and create a little beauty in your space, things that make you smile and bring you joy, and that you will take some time to spruce up your home. Norwex cleaning cloths for cleaning my windows. I am not in any way affiliated with them, but I do have a couple of their products and I really enjoy their cleaning cloths. And what you do is you just dip the window cloth into water, scrub all the spots off, and there's a lot of spots from just flies and all the things over the summer, and then you just wipe it to dry with a microfiber cloth, and it really doesn't take very long. Every time I wash windows, I think, why don't I do this more often? Because it really doesn't take long and it makes everything look so much better. There's also a lot more things that I could do here on my front porch. The tin could use some pressure washing just because there's spots from bugs and dust and dirt, and the concrete could use a good scrubbing, but I only have so much time, and so I'm just doing what I can with the time that I have, and I'm gonna really enjoy the results of having this all made more beautiful, even though there's always more that I could do. Now that the cleaning's done, it's time for the fun part. I am just putting a few mums in my pots that no longer have flowers growing from the summer. And I'm just going to get some burlap and put around each pot just to kind of hide the plastic pot that the mums come in. And it's just a quick and easy way of decorating. So I'm just going to put the burlap around, and then I'm also going to be using some cheap little battery operated lights to put around the burlap, and it's just going to make it look extra cozy and pretty. You know, we're already getting some pretty early evenings because the sun goes down so early. And my favorite thing about decorating for Christmas is always the lights. So I love Christmas, but if it wasn't for the lights, I don't think I would be as excited about the decorations, to be honest with you. And so adding a little bit of light to my fall decorations is just bringing me extra joy. And when I get back from milking the cow in the evenings, it's usually getting dark, and I enjoy seeing all the light on my front porch. I'm also going to do a little sprucing up inside, and so over my kitchen sink, getting rid of my fly strip. It's part of homesteading, is trying to keep control of the flies. It's always a challenge around here. And I'm also cleaning this window and scrubbing up the screens. It seems like the screens in the kitchen always get greasy and nasty. I don't know, just over the summer with the windows open and the wind blowing and all the cooking, they need a good scrubbing. So just gonna scrub everything up and clean the window nice, wash everything, and put up some decorations around my kitchen windows as well, just to bring me a bit of joy. There's a lot more cleaning in my kitchen that I would like to do before the baby comes. Deep cleaning, just all the fall cleaning, but I can do that on a day when it's even colder. And so for today, I am just going to be content to clean the windows and put up a few fall decorations. also doing just a little decorating on my mantle. I absolutely love this space in our house. It's another spot that's not quite completely finished, and that's okay. We need to get the pipe put in for our wood stove. So we heat our house with a wood boiler. In fact, today was the first day that we started a fire in the wood boiler, and it's just so cozy and nice in our home. But we will be looking forward to sometime being able to light this wood stove and see the flames and just enjoy the cozy atmosphere. It's not really necessary, it's just sort of as a backup. But I don't think that that should stop me from sprucing things up just a little bit, decorating for fall. I usually decorate this for Christmas as well, and I'll try to take you along for that part of the journey. So we're just doing some dusting and cleaning, and then adding just a few fall touches before we make a yummy pot of taco soup and show you how to make some sourdough crackers. So for taco soup, this is a recipe that I can easily pull together on a busy day. And so we make it quite often in the winter. And the other great thing about it is it's made with mostly ingredients we can produce on our homestead or keep here stored in bulk. So what I'm doing is just sauteing up some onions, garlic, and some hamburger. And in my Instant Pot, I have put 2 cups of beans, and I put them on high pressure, or you can push the bean setting. And I cook them on high pressure for about an hour and 10 or an hour and 15 minutes. And I'm just letting the steam off of the Instant Pot, and I just throw a towel over the top of it so it doesn't make a mess in my kitchen. Anyway, just seasoning my hamburger and my onions with a little garlic salt, little salt and pepper, some cumin, some chili powder. Those are the main seasonings in this soup. Then I'm just going to add all of this to the Instant Pot, and I am going to drain off the liquid on the beans, because what happens with the liquid from the beans is when it cools, it gets firm, or it thickens. And the problem with that is then you end up with a really thick soup left over. So I usually drain off the liquid from the beans, and then I add in some beef broth along with some tomatoes, a whole bunch of tomatoes. Today I'm using fresh tomatoes because it's the end of garden season, and there's somebody that had given me a few tomatoes, so I'm using fresh tomatoes. And then I'm also going to just add this hamburger and onions to it, and we'll have a delicious soup. You can also use canned tomatoes. I usually do that during the winter. And then I'm going to add a quart of corn, so a frozen quart bag of corn that we put up this summer. And I'm going to put it all in the Instant Pot and turn it back on high pressure for 3 or 4 minutes. And that is enough to thaw the corn and get everything nice and incorporated and nicely warmed up, and then our soup is ready to eat. And this is really good with some sourdough crackers. I'm going to show you how to make those as well. And if you don't have an Instant Pot, you can make taco soup just in a regular pot on the stove, of course. You'll just want to use canned beans, or else start your beans a lot earlier in the day so that they can be cooked all the way through. And it will just take a little bit longer to warm up your frozen corn, unless, of course, you use canned corn or corn that's already thawed. But, you know, the basic elements of what's in the soup are the same. And so for the crackers, this is the easiest, well, I think the easiest sourdough recipe that I've ever made. It's super simple. So what you're going to do is take 1 cup of sourdough discard, and you can use active starter, but the sourdough discard is going to work better, and you're going to see why, because we're going to spread this out on a pan. There's no rolling for this recipe. It's not difficult. but the discard is going to spread out better. And so I'm adding 2 tablespoons of butter per cup of discard, and I am making a 3-cup batch just because for my family, 1 batch doesn't go very far. And I'm going to be adding some seasonings. Now you can add any kind of seasonings you want. So everything bagel seasoning, we love just salt and pepper, garlic salt. What I'm doing today is some garlic salt and then some Parmesan cheese. And then I'm just going to stir it all in. We're going to bake these up quick and we'll have the easiest crackers that you will ever eat, and they're absolutely delicious. And we enjoy them, of course, with soup. I also enjoy eating them with cream cheese and candied jalapenos. Some people call it cowboy candy. So that's really good. Cheese and crackers, of course. There's just lots of different ways to enjoy these crackers. And of course, they're long fermented, right? Because they're made with sourdough discard. And so they're naturally low in phytic acid and in gluten. So it's, they're very healthy for you. It's a fermented food. And again, really super simple. Simple enough that my kids often make these without me. So that's a really fun thing when you find something that's super simple like that. So you're just going to mix it all up, and then we're going to put them on parchment lined baking sheets. And I put 1 recipe on each baking sheet. So again, I'm making a triple batch, so you'll see me doing 3 pans of crackers. You can make these as thick or as thin as you want, but I find that, about 1 recipe per baking sheet works the best for crackers. And we're just going to bake these at 350 degrees for 10 minutes. And then we're going to score them. I like to use a pizza cutter, but you can use whatever you have. I'm just going to score them so that as they finish baking, they will shrink along the lines where you scored them. And so then we're going to bake them for about 10 or 15 minutes. Then we're going to score them, and then we're going to finish baking them for about another 10 minutes, so about 25 minutes total, depending on your oven, until the crackers are crispy and ready to eat. They'll be golden brown. You'll be able to tell. And so that's all there is to it. Just let them cool off a little bit, break them up, keep them in a jar, and enjoy them with soup or whatever else you need crackers for. It's a great way to use up sourdough discard if you have extra. I find that I'm always feeding my starter extra flour and water so that I have plenty of discard on hand so that I can make these crackers as often as needed. And it makes a really fast and easy side dish for soup, things like that in the winter, along with sourdough cornbread. That's another new recipe I'll be sharing with you soon. It's on the website. And those are just fast and easy things that you can make, and it really rounds out the meal. Well, thanks for coming along with me on this cozy day on the homestead. I hope that it was inspiring to you, and I hope you enjoy some of these fall goodies in your own home, and I will see you in the next video.